On today's session of Secure Squad, we kick off our Cybersecurity Awareness Month series. This whole month will focus on the threat of social engineering. Today's session is focused on how social engineers go about picking their targets and what makes some companies and employees more likely to be targeted. Let's talk about it.
This is the Secure Squad podcast with Todd Snap, Brent Bennett, Erin Petty, and Wes Mallory.
So Cybersecurity Month is upon us.
I didn't know that was a thing.
We're a security company, so we thought it might be useful to talk about some important topics that deal with cybersecurity. And I thought it might be really cool to talk about how social engineering attacks unfold, how they're planned, and how they're carried out. And we have a lot of experience behind the scenes.
There's a lot more components than most people think.
Yeah, I think most people, they're accustomed to the movies. It's a sneaky phone call or walking in a trench coat into a bank lobby or something.
Well, just
like
one genius guy who works out some kind of attack.
But
Right.
That's what we do.
Well, but they're really coordinated, and we have a lot of experience working for legitimate organizations that want us to test their own security, and they want us to test their people, and they want us to test their processes. And so over the last 15 or 16 years, we've done all of it, and I thought it would be kind of neat just to share some of that behind the scenes stuff.
Well, and it's interesting that a lot of people, when we tell them what we do, their first reaction is, that sounds like the coolest job ever, because they think it's all just a creative acting process, when in reality it's scientific. It's about trying to collect data about the weaknesses. And so like you said, there's steps in the process that you have to do to make sure that you know what really the weaknesses are.
But it's also sad because of the success that we
Oh yeah,
have.
it's scary.
It's sad when you see the successes that we have, or that any company has. It does.
And everyone loves the stories.
war
Yeah.
stories always sell.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem, is we always don't know if we call them a success or a failure.
Right.
Because is it a success when we breach a company, or is it a failure? I guess it's a success for us, but it demonstrates
Money
a sad
spends either
thing.
way.
Well, and there's this notion out there, like you mentioned, that everybody thinks it's cool and fun when they hear what we do, but what they don't realize is much of what we do is the work before we even make the first phone call, or we make the first email. We send out the first phishing email. So I thought it might be useful to talk about why some people are targeted. Now, we know our customers come to us and they say, hey, we believe we have a problem with this area, and we want you to test that. Or we have this thing that we really want to keep control of and never have taken away. We want to see if you can get it. Mm-hmm. But that's easy for us. It's defined for us. But what is it that would make a company or an organization a target of social engineers? There's obviously a reason that people go after some companies.
Well, Brent would say because he's all about money. It's because the company pays us to test them. But you're asking, why would a real social engineer target a company?
Right. Why? What is it that a company? What is it that makes them a target?
Because that's the point. That's the whole reason that anyone ever hires somebody to do this exercise, is because they know it happens for real. And so why is that?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that, the first most important thing is that organization has something valuable. And so if you're taking a person who's a thief, what they're looking for is where is the stuff that I can sell, or where's the stuff that has value. And so I would say that's probably the first thing.
Or make a name for themselves. They want to gain popularity, so I'm going to go after this big company or this famous person just so I can say that I've done it.
The sad thing is there are people who can get famous in the circle of thieves.
Well, and there's a crusader side of it too, especially in today's world. You want to strike at somebody for some political reason or some reason to make a statement. Well, those are the ones you want to take down.
Well, and this sounds really conspiracy theory, but the reality is we know that today there are nation states out there, Iran, China, for example, that are actively attacking organizations, actively attacking companies. I mean, that's just part of what they're doing.
Well, and let's not fool ourselves. America's on that list as well.
I don't think so.
They're listening to us right now.
I hope we are.
I don't think, no. we wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Well, so you've named a lot of things. I mean, there's the thing where you're trying to get something valuable, and so and that usually is just people's personal information. Because there's a market for it. And that's the sad thing is if you steal it, you can sell it.
But a word about value too. Sometimes making one step is value. That company may not have intrinsic value, but they may have a tie to another company that has a tie to another company, and you're running yourself through some vendors to get to the end goal. And so sometimes it's not as obvious. You can look at your company and say, well, who would care about our data? Well, if you work with another company that they're trying to work their way through, that's what they're trying to do.
You're a target.
Right. They're trying to walk the steps towards the eventual
we've had to do
goal.
some soul searching about that as well, where we've said, we've got our own security infrastructure, and because we don't house a bunch of data, we think that there's not much to protect, but we realize, we could be a conduit to so many other companies. And that's usually how it works, because they're like, that, Google and Target and Home Depot, they have amazing security, but if they open up their security to somebody that's not vetted well, that's just as bad as not having security at all.
And that's, the largest data breach in history was against Target. And that didn't go through Target. That went through a small HVAC company that was a vendor of Target.
Yeah.
And apparently the hackers knew that company worked for Target, and they thought they're a soft target. And so they went through them to get to Target's network. Because Target had, like you said, Target was strong and secure, but the weakness came through a third party.
If I remember correctly, that was an email phish that went straight through that HVAC company. Is that right? And then that let them through to Target systems.
Right.
So it was as simple as an email sent to an HVAC company's employee that allowed them through. So it's not just that their network has to be secure, because you think an HVAC company is not going to have a huge network infrastructure, but they've got employees doing business, and just that email does it.
Right. And so I guess that's something that small businesses need to think about, especially if they have a relationship with a big company. Is you could end up completely destroying your relationship because you let somebody into your largest customer.
Well, you asked why an organization will be targeted, and one is that they have things of value, and another might be that they just are weak, that they've demonstrated that they don't have great security, and they might be a sieve. It might just be that we know that's a place we can get into because they don't take it seriously, and that can come in a lot of ways. That can just be that employees that seem to not be well trained, or employees that are sharing information or whatever. And so
on Facebook.
Yeah, social media.
Right, you can pick up clues, and see how people treat information. And there may be somebody that you can just, you see, well, this is almost an open door.
Yeah, I can get anything I want from them.
Right.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback on that, now something like ransomware has been out there so long that hackers know which companies are not only are susceptible, but which ones are also willing to pay the ransom. And so, unfortunately, people who are paying ransoms just get targeted over and over.
Well, and that's the sad thing about ransomware, is that an organization that commits ransomware, if they get paid, they'll release your data because they want you to pay again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so we know, obviously almost any company is a potential target for a social engineer, for hackers. What about the people within the company, though? There are some people, we have found in our experience that there are some people we would rather go after than others, and I know in the real world it's the same thing.
Well, first on that list is, do they have access to important things? So you're not going to try to hack a person who's got nothing or has no access, and so and unfortunately sometimes the frontline people that many companies have entry level, or that they have a lot of turnover, are people that have a lot of access. And so you might say, well, people that are on that front line at a contact center, an IT department, help desk, those people generally are given a lot of access, and so they might be targeted just because of that.
Or an assistant of someone higher up.
Yes, maybe go through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even in some companies, the CEO. If you can somehow get to them or impersonate them,
Yeah.
then that carries a lot of weight.
Well, and sometimes they consider themselves above the law, and so they don't. Maybe the CEO doesn't do the security awareness training. Maybe the CEO isn't doing all of the security procedures or reading all the reports, and they sometimes maybe are less secure. And
Well, that's
It's funny that at the very top and the very bottom of your corporate hierarchy, those are your weak points.
Yeah.
And it gets better as you get towards the middle.
That's
They
true.
get stronger.
Well, and this may be sharing too much, but we deliver security awareness training too through our LMS, and Brent has been asked by some of our customers, just go ahead and pass this person. They're a high profile person. They're a person who sometimes it's a household name, but sometimes it's just a high profile person within the company, and they don't want them to have to take that training. That's too much trouble for them. So just go ahead and pass them on the back end, and then they don't have to mess with it.
Perhaps a Division I football coach. That sort of
something
thing.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, like what Brent was saying about the hierarchy, this bell curve. Erin, we might consider to be in the middle of
I don't know about
the
that.
bell curve. And she is all over it. She is, if there's training, she is extremely,
That's because I'm a rule Nazi.
yes. And
Am
she's,
I allowed to say that?
But she escalates too.
and she also says like inappropriate things sometimes. But
Yes, all the
anyway,
time.
but she's really diligent about it. But but somebody who maybe is really responsible for it, maybe thinks, I'm,
I got this. I know
false
what I'm
sense of-
doing.
Yeah, false sense of security.
IT department people
Yes.
tend to
Yeah.
think they know it all.
Oh, from a lot of the things that we've done with fake websites and logins and those things, you would think that they would be able to pick them out.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do, and they engage and start arguing, through login attempts. And at that point, it proves that they don't know to
Shut it
disengage. Right.
Well, early on, even we thought when we were doing these audits, we wanted to avoid the IT department. We thought, man, they're going to sniff this out so quick. The help desk, IT help desk, that was kind of where we were. We thought, we don't want to mess with those guys. And pretty soon we figured out, no, those are the guys we want to mess with because, first of all, they can actually take action. They can reset passwords. They can give us access, give us VPN access. And unfortunately, most of the time, they're the ones that aren't paying that much attention.
Or I think they're too smart to get snookered.
Yeah. I mean, and you're right.
Brent.
Yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, like we said, any company could be a target. Any person could be a target. And the reality is social engineers are going to go after whoever they can. And sometimes they may not have enough information, so they may only have a few names of the business, and they're going to call them at least to start. Thanks for joining us for today's session of the Secure Squad podcast. Next time, we're going to pull back the curtain a bit and discuss what social engineers do to prepare for an attack. It's not a simple matter of sending a few phishing emails. Days, even weeks of preparation go into pulling off a successful social engineering attack. Be sure to join us then.
This has been the Secure Squad podcast.
Whoa.